Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Let me introduce about our group. We are from group 6. The members are Rusid Hanafi, Anzaril Yupama, Syahwa Indah Kirana, Nur Aini, Muhammad Ma'rifatullah, Amelia Yulistina, and Muhammad Ali. In this chapter, there are several explanations about Pidgin and Creole languages, including distribution, origins and structure, morphology, phonology, lexicon, the Creole continuum, and Pidgin and Creole in social context. A pidgin is contact variety restrict in form and function and native to no one, which is a form by members of at least two groups of different linguistic background. The example of Pela in Tok Pisin show how what was originally an English word with no grammatical function has been pressed into service in English way to mark grammatical distinction and topicing. Since some Pidgins and Creoles may change their lexical affiliation through a process known as relaxification.
Origins and structure. The example of Pidgin for Creole illustrates how the question of Pidgin and Creole origins cannot easily be discussed separately from an account of their structural characteristics. Creolists have proposed a variety of theories to explain why the structure of Pidgins and Creoles show more similarities to one another, regardless of their base language, than they do their lexical or base language.
Morphology. The overall simplicity and regularity found in Pidgin and Creole is general design feature which reflect the function of those languages as linguist friends. The fact there is a relatively little to be said about morphology in Pidgin and Creole since lot of this one of the defining characteristic of Pidginization process. The absence of highly developed inflectional morphology was generally equated with lack of the grammar and thought to reflect the primitiveness of both the language and the speakers. Pidginization can entail loss of all-bound morphology, many free grammatical morphemes, and even a large part of the vocabulary. For example, we can compare Yimas, a language spoken in the Sepik region of Papua New Guinea, with Pidgin Yimas, a variety used for intertribal trade. Yimas proper is a highly complex language morphologically, while Pidgin Yimas is vastly simple. While Yimas proper makes 7 tense destinations, Yimas Pidgin only makes 2. Yimas proper is distinguished for number it is pronominal Pidgin, singular, dual, vocal, and plural, while Yimas Pidgin has only 3.
On the whole, the phonology of Creoles has been less well investigated than their syntax, and within the domain of phonology, there is scant information of suprasegmental phenomena, such as tone, stress, and intonation. Many have commented that the suprasegmental phonology of the Atlantic English-based Creoles has been influenced by the tonal system of the African substrate languages. In Jamaican Creole, tone is lexical in a few minimal pairs. Pidgin and Creole do not have a single phonology, and phonology remains the less stable system in otherwise stabilized Pidgins. Expansion of a Pidgin usually involves a steady increase in a phonological distinction. During the creolization, when the substrate exerts pressure on the Creole phonological system might match partially with that of the substrate language. Thus, the phonology of individual speakers of Tok Pisin varies from heavily Anglicized to what some have called a core phonology. The core phonology is shared by all speakers of the language, while the Anglicized phonology makes the most of the consonant and vowel distinction in English.
Okay, on this occasion, I will continue the material about lexicon. Depending on the circumstances, a Creole may adopt more items from the superstrate language due to intense contact. Tok Pisin, for instance, takes from 11% to 20% of its lexicon from indigenous language, such as Tolai, spoken in New Britain, and at least 5% from German, as well as some words from Malay, such as binatang or insect. The number of items in the lexicon of a pidgin is highly restricted. Estimates of size vary from about 300 to 1,500 words, depending on the language. In the case of the younger generation of Tokpisin speakers, for example, it ranges from about 800 in rural areas to about 2,500 in urban areas, where a greater number of English words have been incorporated and where the language is being nativized and expanded. Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
What is Creole continuum? A post-Creole continuum, or simply Creole continuum, is a dialect continuum of varieties of a Creole language between those most and less similar to the superstrate language, that is, a closely related language whose speakers assert or asserted dominance of some sort. There are three types Creole continuum. Which one is acrolectal, basilectal, and mesolectal? Acrolectal, those varieties closest to the superstrate at one, and the basilectal, those varieties furthest from it. At the other, mesolectal varieties are intermediate. This can be illustrated with the set of 18 variants from the Guyanese post-Creole continuum shown in pitch. The ordering of the varieties in the model presented here makes no claim about their diachronic development since it seems likely that in many cases mesolectal and acrolectal varieties were present even in the earliest phase of Creole formation and do not always develop after creolization in adaptation to the superstrate. Thus, acrolectal varieties cannot be regarded as necessarily later than basilectal one. Creolization and decreolization can be consistent as they are, for instance, in Papua New Guinea. Tok Pisin is in the process of being nativized by the younger generation at the same time as increased accessibility to English schooling is creating a range of varieties which are neither Tok Pisin nor English. So I think that Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Pidgin and Creole in social context. First, we want to talk about Pidgin. That Pidgin is an intermediate language that not native, while Creole is language that has native speaker. Pidgin language is a language that appears suddenly when communication is needed in certain situations. For example,
for trading or labor. Pidgin language is self kind of compromise or agreement between two or several languages. Pidgin usually arises when a group of people is in power over another group, and those who are not in power need to learn communicate with a more powerful group. 2. Creole. Creole is language that has been passed down from generation to generation. When a pidgin language that was successfully developed and survived until then was used from generation to generation, become the original language of the successor. For example, when slaves from several countries are working together in one plantation, but they don't have the same language. Pidgin language is carried out very quickly from one language to another if to another if in unconditional cooperation is needed, communication is needed. And some become Creole language. Some Creole have a base in English like Jamaica Creole, French in Haitian Creole, and Spanish Cavacano Creole, but in small number. Characteristic of Pidgin and Creole. We can look this difference between Pidgin and Creole characteristic. Pidgin, no native speaker, no language, simple structure, no identification, and unstable. Creole, native speaker, feels language, complex structure, have identification, and stable. For example, we can look this example. 1. This is my house. In Creole, hem ya house belong me. Example 2. I have already been to town. In Creole, me been long don't finish. Another example, this, and this. Okay, I think that is all. I will say thanks and goodbye.